Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Blackstone Fortress. This is episode 6. I would make the fake applause joke, but I feel like we've kind of worn that one out. So instead, I'm just going to say hi. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Wow.
What?
Hello, everybody.
We could do some real applause.
I mean, I don't want to. It's fine. We'll let people clap at home. If you want to applaud us in the comfort of your own home, you can go ahead and do that. As usual, I'm Chris, aka Snowy Night Owl. Tonight I'm joined by Coda, aka Limerick, and Mark.
Hello. I have no secret identity.
I said this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know that I've ever once used your actual handle.
Yeah, I know.
So
It's been Mark.
just, it's a thing.
It sticks.
Yeah, bit of a thin crew this week, which is kind of funny in an ironic way, because I think we've got more to talk about this week in terms of hobby stuff than we have for the last 2-3 weeks. So lots going on.
I believe it.
We're gonna actually open up tonight, though. We got an email.
We
From
just
a
got
viewer.
a letter. We just got a letter.
Let's see what's inside.
Email from Lloyd, which is Coda Senior. Opens the first line buttering up the host of the podcast, which is a great way to get your letter read on air. I'm just gonna put that out there. He's wondering how we manage. He says, I would like to hear from the group. How do they manage themselves, or more so their recall during a game? How do you remember stratagems, spells, buffs, and whatnot? I tend to come at it by pre-selecting fewer options in hopes I can recall my options. Otherwise, I feel overwhelmed and tend to blank. Do you study ahead of time? Do you make notes? Do you discard those that you feel you won't use? Playing against my son, while fun, is hardly one I can take pointers from, as he tends to remember not only his own rules and options, but whatever army he's facing, leaving me to feel like my dementia has progressed right there at the tabletop. Anyways, it would be interesting to hear how your group digests the rules and prepares for a game. Thank you.
Well,
So throwing a little shade at one of the podcasts, but
yes.
which coincidentally is also a great way to get your letter read on air. So other fellow viewers can take note. Yeah, I really like this as a question, because I think this is a good thing to sort of discuss, both from more of a casual standpoint, which I think I definitely speak from, and then semi-competitive and competitive, which I think describes the two of you.
Yeah, I get that.
For me, I found what ended up being the biggest thing, and this isn't going to be necessarily practical for everyone, is actually repetition. The more, and using Tabletop Simulator helped with this, the more I got in and I played and just sort of took it slow with people who were sort of on board with that idea, and go step by step, read the rules really carefully, and then oh, excuse me, getting over a flu. This is great timing. And as things sort of became more and more natural while I was playing, I had to reference less and less.
Mm-hmm.
To that end, though, I still use a cheat sheet. And so I still have a list of the things that I found I needed to reference the most often. And it's broken down for me by phase, right? So in the command phase, I have a note that I have to check for battle shocks, because I'm bad at remembering to check for battle shocks.
No.
And then I have, in the movement phase, do I need to bring in reinforcements? In the opponent's movement phase, do I want to rapid reinforce? And then in the shooting phase, do I want to use my stratagems, and so on and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
And I found that even just as a starting point, I kind of wish I had done that before I got in to do the repetition, because I definitely practiced a few things wrong.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, of course. I mean, everything constantly changes too, even week to week sometimes.
Well, and that's just it. My notes have needed updating at least a couple of times.
Oh yeah. Personally in the beginning, when I started learning the game a couple years ago, the biggest thing that helped for me, with memorize, the memorization is a big part of it. Getting comfortable with archetypes helped me a lot. Space Marine type of units have pretty standardized stats, 5-inch movement, T4, 3-up save, that kind of thing. Guardsmen have a certain save, strength It's like T3, 5-inch movement, I think. And it's like you could apply that to so many different armies where you look at a model you know nothing about, and you can kind of get an idea of what it can do just off the rip. It's like, oh, it's a walker, and maybe like T11 or like 8 inches of movement, you know, that kind of thing. And you can always ask questions, you know. You get even no matter how much experience you have, you're not gonna know every single thing about every single model you go against, especially in your own army half the time. And I use a cheat sheet, the same thing. Like I know which stratagems affect which models, and I try to keep track of what those models do and where they are, and I forget the ones I don't need because I don't need them. Who needs tank shock?
I need tank shock. That was one of the ones that I put like in bold and double underlined on my sheet because I kept forgetting to use it.
I run a lot of Silver Tide, so not a lot of vehicles I bring.
So I come at this two ways. One, as a person who played 8th and 9th semi-competitively, 10th has made it a lot easier for me.
Yes.
Instead of going from a whole codex of stratagems that could apply, I'm down to 6 for each detachment.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Such a nice change.
which is, I mean, chef's kiss to GW for that. The other side, I don't know why my brain works this way. I naturally am better at remembering things than most people I know. When it comes to like the 40K history dates, that type of stuff, I just excel at that. So I cheat sheets aren't so much what I use. I rely heavily on the first part of what Mark said, which is the equivalency.
Mm-hmm.
The competitive scene has an acronym called TEQ and MEQ,
Oh.
and
They
TEQ is
have a lot
Terminator.
more acronyms than that, let's be honest.
Well, yes, but basically it's Terminator equivalent unit and Marine equivalent unit.
Yeah.
And just like you said, Mark, Marine equivalent units are T4 strength, mostly strength 4 back when strength is its own thing.
Right.
A 3-up save, 6 inches of movement, and that type of stuff. A Terminator equivalent unit is T5, 2-up save with an invol most times. The thing that I find huge is if you're trying to remember stuff for your own army, forget about your enemy. Ask every question you can about your enemy's army when you need to. Hey, guy, what's your toughness? What's your toughness? What's your toughness? If they refuse to answer, then don't play them again.
Fuck you, bro.
No, if you
it
are
should
learning,
be mentioned that like that sort of needs to be established at the start of the game though, right? Top of the game. Hey, I'm still kind of learning this. I don't know your army. I'm gonna ask a lot of questions. I'm sorry in advance.
Oh sure. Like I've been in tournaments before. Like someone's come up, like, "Hey, shake your hand. Nice to meet you. Hey, real quick, can you just tell me your army's like gotcha stratagems real quick, just so I know what to look out for?" Like, yeah, sure, 100%.
and so the big thing is repetition, and for people who can't play often, then you are at a sort of disadvantage for that. The flip side is that's when you rely on the cheat sheets, and that's when you rely on the maybe catering your army to one or two stratagems.
Mm-hmm.
Is it gonna horribly ruin your army if you forget armor contempt with a Space Marine army? Probably not, but your success will increase a lot if you remember it.
Right.
So maybe what you do then is bring units that don't rely heavily on that. Terminators, aggressors, things with a high save that really anything that would benefit from armor contempt. So like, let's be real. The numerically, if a Terminator is pushed to his 5-up save, he's going into his invul. Like it's
Yeah.
So armor contempt isn't really going to help there. It's the same with aggressors; they don't have an invul, but if they're going to be pushed up to the point where it matters, usually it's past the point where it matters.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of like AP3 stuff. Like we see a lot of like AP1, a smattering of AP2, and then it's like AP5 and 6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, and this thought just kind of occurred to me while we were sitting here listening to the problem child from the letter speak. One thing that I think a lot of people maybe get ahead of themselves on is don't don't feel like your opponent is holding you to a standard, right? So Limerick will attest to this. He's much better at knowing rules than I am, and like significantly better. But when we play, if I get checked on a rule or if I get questioned on a rule, I will stop and I will read the rule. I will go find the reference that backs me up. Admittedly, that's significantly easier in digital format because Control F is a thing. But I generally, particularly because I like to think of like amongst sort of the Blackstone group when we play 40K, they're more like exhibition games where we're practicing to play against other people. And I will make him wait while I check if the rule works how I think it works. And I do that with everybody. If I'm not 100% sure about a rule, I will go look it up. Don't feel like if you're across the table from someone who has a steel trap for memory and has the rule books memorized, don't feel like you have to match them sort of point for point on that. If you have to say, I need a second to look that up, I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but I want to check, then go look it up, right?
Or if you can, like if you're playing somebody who you're relatively familiar with or who is a pillar of your FLGS community, levy that. Hey, I'm not sure how this rule works. I'm thinking of doing this. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
The true pillars of our community will sit there and tell you, yeah, that's how that works. And they might even then go further and go, that's a great idea. Or actually, I wouldn't do that because.
Yeah.
You can't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you 90% of the time you're going to be across from a fellow human being who's there to have a good time. And winning because your opponent doesn't know what they're doing is generally not a good time. So
the other side of it is if you have serious issues with it, there are resources out there that are like one-page rule guides where everybody's broken down. This is a complicated game, and it's been a complicated game for 10 editions. People want to teach it to their friends, but don't want to spend 8 hours to do it. So it's cheat sheets where it's, hey, toughness beats strength. It's improved. Your roll needs to be 3 or more. Toughness double strength. That type of stuff.
Did you guys see the picture of the FLGS that ordered like a flag-sized copy of the strength toughness table to keep in their gaming room?
No.
Yeah, like to me, it doesn't even need a table. When you break it down to its basic rules, if I beat you, it's 3 or higher. If I double you, it's 2 or higher. If I'm less than you, it's 5 or higher. If you double me, it's 6 or higher.
Yeah.
With ones not being a thing because they always fail. And so at one point it was tables were needed and everything, but they've done a good job at lowering that requirement. I also think, and this is a bit more specific to how I play with my dad, because like he says, he has watching him struggle trying to remember things isn't fun for me. And by the way, he makes the joke that he has dementia. As far as we know, he does not. He's still in the game.
As far as we know. Sorry.
But it's the same with anybody. Watching them struggle to try and remember things that are core to their army is no fun to me. So I am always willing to help. One of the things I found out that helped the most was Combat Patrol, where it's smaller games, much reduced stratagems. You usually have 2 or 3. You have 2 enhancements to choose from. You have 2 secondaries to choose from. Until you get the flow of the rule of the game, Combat Patrol is an unbalanced but amazing way to do that.
Yeah, it really takes a lot of personally, I love the Combat Patrol is really static in the environment. Like it's easy to pick up, read 2 pages, and then refer to 4 different data sheets. If you go to the Space Marine Codex, Space Codex, look at a regular intercessor. It's like, oh, look at this. This is my basic unit. It's got 12 different options for war gear and stuff. That is a complete turn off for me personally. I have no idea how to even build this. So, Combat Patrol does a really good job of watering it down, making it more palatable, get you into the hobby, and kind of explore what you want to do.
And I will also say, for anybody who gets into Combat Patrol and goes, "Oh, I picked Astra Militarum, I can't seem to win anything," or "Oh, I picked World Eaters, I can't seem to win anything." I don't know if they've done this on purpose, but it seems like every army that struggles at Combat Patrol does a lot better in 2,000-point games. So the end of the tunnel is there. You just have to be comfortable with the rules.
Yeah.
we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but that's because combat patrol is based around box and not point.
Yeah. Well, I just mean like I don't, like I said, I don't know if this is on purpose, but there isn't a combat patrol that's stupidly strong that also has a stupidly strong 2,000-point army.
Yeah.
Like the Custodies are stupidly strong in combat patrol.
Right.
But they're not at 2,000 points.
Yeah, they don't scale up with board size well. And I mean, as more armies can bring more tools, because you look at a Swiss Army knife, the bigger the knife, the more tools you have, right?
Yeah.
So
We're just being a really, really big gun.
just one really big gun. That's all we need.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Warhammer to pull the trigger and make Knights Combat Patrol. You know, everyone's thinking about it. Everyone knows.
They already did. It's just the War Dogs box.
Just give me the top half of a Titan that can't move, and I'll be happy.
It's a fortification.
But yeah, that would be my answer. Is cheat sheets. Try to find equivalencies wherever you can.
Yep.
Your for example, if you play Grey Knights, your Terminators and Strike Squad, their weapon lines are the same because they're the same Nemesis Force weapon. So if your Terminators are hitting on 2s, so are your Strike Squad.
Yeah.
No, 100% agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to segue that, though, because on the subject of equivalencies, we've been having a great deal of conversation about equivalencies, courtesy of the Munitorum Field Manual that dropped this week.
Yeah.
the two responses that you guys heard there, which is Mark's optimism and Coda's exhaustion, kind of sums up how I think the Munitorum Field Manual has gone. So we've got a rules balancing update that's come through from Games Workshop. They didn't make a ton of changes, but what they made, I think, was fairly impactful. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to pull up the documents here real quick. You would think by this point I would know to be more prepared with this, but
sure thing.
Want to know what I wish they did? Well, as I tap dance here for you, I wish that they had a data slate commentary.
Like to explain their decisions?
Yeah, like what was wrong with the previous way it was?
Even just like a Warcom article talking about like notable changes. Because didn't they used to do that a little bit with Meta Watch Mondays, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or Meta Monday or whatever they called it.
Yeah, and they changed something that's pretty pivotal to my army.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why.
For those who are keeping track, this is the World Eaters specifically.
Oh no, they also changed things to Astra Militarum that's pivotal too.
Oh, great.
God.
So why don't we jump into it there and talk about the one really big change that they made to the rules, which is modifying surge move, which to steal Goonhammer's description of how this change came through, they're not saying that it was being done incorrectly before. They're saying that it was too strong in its previous state. And so what they've changed is they've sort of clarified and unified things. The big one is that every unit that has a surge ability, and for those who don't know what a surge ability is, case in point examples would be things like Berserkers or Hernkin Jaegers, or the one Tyranid detachment gets it. But it's essentially opponent triggers condition, your unit gets to move. So to make it topical to who's here today, World Eaters Berserkers have an ability that anytime they are shot and they lose a model, or just when they're shot?
Yep. No, when they lose a model, they have to bleed.
So when they lose a model, they can move D6 inches in any direction, right? Or does it have to be towards the closest enemy?
Towards the closest enemy.
Okay. So D6 inches towards the closest enemy. The way that was worded, it meant that if I tried to chip down Berserkers previously, every time I shot at them, as long as one model died, they got to move up to 6 inches. And so if there's a unit of 10 and I don't shoot at them with either something that is overwhelmingly anti-infantry or pretty much all of my anti-tank guns, they would get to move potentially 4 or 5 times based
into
on
combat,
how,
which then means they can't be shot at again.
right, because
Yeah.
then they can move into engagement range without requiring a charge move, which then lets them fight on your turn as the opponent. And it's a mess for everybody involved. That has
Not
now
cool.
been restricted to they can only do the blood surge once per phase. So
Jeez.
I shoot at them, they move once. I shoot at them again, they don't get to move even if they lose a model.
Is that a stratagem or is
No,
it?
that's core to the Berserkers kit. That is just how Berserkers work. Hernkin Jaegers have a similar ability.
Huh.
I'm actually going to pull that up right now.
That's a bit rude.
Double check the wording on this. Excuse me. Jeez Louise, I cannot get rid of this cough. Everything else is fine, but yeah, so Hernkin Jaegers have pragmatic hunters once per turn. Oh, theirs already clarifies once per turn. When an enemy ends a normal advance or fallback move within 9 inches of this unit, if they're not within engagement range, they can make a normal move of up to D6 inches.
So what other units have that? Because like Canoptic Court has a stratagem that does that, but
There's a Gaunt that has what? I think it's Termagaunts.
oh, okay. I thought I meant Gaunt's Ghost for a second. I'm like, what?
No, so the way that World Eaters used it was I'd take a 10-man block of Berserkers, which is 180 points, not overly expensive. I'd stick them in a Rhino. I'd stick them with a Master of Execution. Well, that's what makes me fight first.
Mhm.
And then I'd use the Rhino to move up to their first engagement. They'd slaughter that thing, and then Surge would let me live into a second engagement
Right, sure, yep, in melee.
because I don't have range. So it was so either you wouldn't shoot at me because you don't want me to engage you, or you'd shoot at me and I'd be able to get to your next unit. And because the Master of Execution lets me fight first, I can fight on the charge phase or on the fight first part of the fight phase.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it was very, very strong. Well, not very. It was very, very strong, but it was the only way to play Berserkers.
Yeah, it was like this is what they do.
Yeah.
To clarify, because we had to clarify this in our private chat, this is talking from a competitive table standpoint. In your casual games, you're likely not to notice much of a change here, other than maybe having to hide your Berserkers a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But from a competitive standpoint, them not being able to surge continuously into an enemy anymore, and still requiring like 380 points to work because you need the character, you need the 10-man squad, and you need the Rhino.
Right.
I could just bring an Exalted 8-bound 6-man squad that has 7 less wounds, but an invul and a feel no pain, and deep strikes, and a possibility of denying your fallback.
Yeah, it's like suddenly Berserkers are I don't want to play with you anymore territory.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where they were never really used for point getting. They were so they were in 10-man squads, and now it's maybe not worth it to do that.
Yeah. So that's the big thing. The other thing that they standardized is that surge moves cannot be done while battle shocked. So that was already a thing for Berserkers, but the Space Wolves Wolf Lord had the ability to surge move while battle shocked and no longer does. And surge moves cannot be done while within engagement range of one or more enemy units, which is again just kind of feels like them cleaning up rules more so than anything else.
I don't have an issue with them cleaning up the rule, and I truly don't have an issue with them changing the surge rule because it just means that I'll rotate into a different build. I don't think it kills my army. I'm frustrated because I do like Berserkers and I'd like to play them on the table. They are sort of the iconic World Eater model.
Right. Chain X and stuff.
But I struggle to understand why it was so powerful.
I'm having a hard time finding the article that was talking about this, but the thought is that this nerf wasn't actually targeted at Khorne Berserkers, despite them being called out in the rule.
Specifically.
I don't remember.
Who is it for? Games Workshop,
where did this go? I don't remember who they were talking about. Surge moves. Nope, that's not.
I didn't know that's what they were called.
There's a Tyranid detachment where pretty much the whole detachment gets them. And I think it was a Drukari unit that they said might have been abusing it a little bit too effectively.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I don't love a blanket change like this.
Yeah.
I think in particular because, like, if the Berserker's rule was when you get shot at, you can move d6 inches, whether or not something that feels a little imbalanced. But the fact that you have to give up at least one Berserker in order to get that d6 blood surge,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's room for an exception to be carved out there.
Yeah, I agree.
I would expect to see a stratagem that lets me do it a second time.
Yeah.
Because, like, in all reality, it being uncapped was unnecessary. Very rarely did I need more than 12 inches to get into combat.
Well, yeah, that's just it.
But it being uncapped allowed me to roll once and still get in.
Yeah.
Because it's not a guaranteed 6-inch move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, if you roll, Snake Eyes on 2 runs of that, like you haven't done anything. So, yeah, no, whole thing. So that was interesting decision number 1. Interesting decision number 2 was some of the points rebalancing that they did.
Yes.
I took a quick scroll through the changes, and there's more than a few that left me kind of scratching my head. Sisters players, you need to double check your army lists because probably half of their codex went up.
Oh yeah, like this is definitely like the field manual where if you were not touched, you made out like a bandit.
Oh yeah, no, it was. I find it funny that the Battle Sister Squad was reduced to 105 points, but then they've got what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units that were increased. Oh no, the Zephyrim Squad went down. I missed that. And the Bringers of Flame detachment, which is kind of like the detachment in the competitive space, all of their enhancements went up.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess get bent.
Mm-hmm.
Custodes players are celebrating because their Forge World units survived. They're still there. They're still in the list.
I still play my Titan dog thing.
Contemptor Dreadnought variants both went down in points. Trajan went down. Virtus Praetors went down, which is good. I love Virtus Praetors. I'd like to see more of them on the table. Adeptus Mechanicus got a bit of fine tuning to their points. There's some reductions, some increases. At a quick glance, it seems like things that generally needed it. Electro Priests of both flavors were reduced in price. The Onager Dunecrawler went down in price. The Sulphur Hounds went down in price. Sidonian Scatros, which is the horse riding character, went down in price, even though the regular Sidonians did not. Tech Priest Dominus, Engine Seer, and Manipulus all went down in points. Starting to look a bit like Death Guard characters at those points. And then Iron Strider Balistari, Taraxi, both flavors, and base Skitarii Vanguard all went up in points, which, from what little I know of Adeptus Mechanicus, that feels careful, I guess, as far as points adjustments. Yeah. They didn't touch the Titans, guys. The Titans all stayed the same. Nobody panic.
That's so.
Eldari saw reductions only to a number of very specific units. Interestingly, the Fire Prism went down in points. I found that curious. I know the Fire Prism wasn't the problem child from earlier in the edition with dev wounds, but nice to see that go down. Shining Spears, Corsairs, Warlock Conclave, Skyrunner Conclave, the Wave Serpent, Wraith Blades, Wraith Guard, and Wraith Knights all went down.
Ooh.
I mean, it strikes me as this is the data slate that's like, hey, we wanted Battle Line and MSU units to be dominant, and then they went, hold on, guys.
Wait, hold up. MSU being minimum size, right?
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where, because like a lot of these changes just affect the minimum size.
Well, none of the ones that we've seen so far have only affected one unit size. They've all been. Oh, sorry, no. Wraith Blades 5 models went down. 10 stayed at. Although this one seems more like a correction than most of the others I've seen, where they did do what you're saying. They've made it so that 5 Wraith Blades is half the cost of 10 Wraith Blades.
Oh,
Yeah.
like it
Oh,
wasn't
no, they
before.
didn't. No, it's 160 to 340. I can't do math tonight. I'm still sick.
Okay.
Wraith Guard, same deal, 180 to 380. So you pay less for full-size models.
Well, it makes me wonder if they're, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it, but I don't have to.
Yeah, I don't know. Astra Militarum got a very strange smattering of changes. Bullgrown Squad went up both sizes.
They were impressive, yeah.
They're crazy, bro. They're crazy.
Field Ordnance Battering went down. Heavy
Still
Weapon
not good.
Squad went down.
Maybe good.
Ogren Squad, not Bulgren, Ogren went down for both sizes.
Boys in green.
All 3 unit sizes for Scout Sentinels went down in points. The Tank Commander went up.
But there's a reason the Tank Commander went up.
Mm.
And this is the change that is massive.
Uh,
It now has a squadron, which means that it can issue itself orders and it gets lethals against vehicles and monsters.
What?
I can't believe I didn't have it before.
Yeah, no, it could issue orders to squadron, but it could never issue orders to itself. And because it didn't have that keyword, it didn't benefit from born soldiers.
Amazing.
That's funny.
You were not born a soldier.
So it could issue other tanks. It could order other tanks, but it couldn't order itself. And now it can, and it gets lethals.
If you ask me for the single most military thing I could think of, it would be an officer that's really good at telling everybody else what to do, but can't do a damn thing himself.
I mean, that's Astra Militarum in a nutshell.
Right.
But yeah, that's the point increase. Now, do me a favor. Look up what a Demolisher Lehman Russ costs.
Currently, or what it used to?
Currently.
In money or in points?
Lehman Russ Demolisher, 200 points.
So for 25 extra points, you get a commander that can fight on death or shoot on death
with a Demolisher cannon. Yeah.
Issue orders with a Demolisher cannon.
Oh, that's pretty okay.
Yeah, because you don't pay for war gear anymore, and the tank commander is in a Lehman Russ and can pick which Lehman Russ loadout he wants.
Yep.
Why bring a Demolisher?
Well, it used to be you'd put the Demolisher on him because he was significantly less than a Demolisher tank. Now he's more, but it's still worth it.
Well, yeah, because now they gave him the squadron rule, so he's actually a Demolisher again.
Yeah.
Wild. I'm getting whiplash from some of these changes.
No. All good things.
Black Templars, I think I might have eyes on quite possibly the strangest change I've seen. The Castellan went down in points. The Chaplain Grimaldus went up in points. The Crusader Squad went up, but only for the version that is 1 Sword Brother, 9 Initiates, and 10 Neophytes.
What?
Yeah, so the max squad size.
Yeah. But like the way that this is broken down, I paid very little attention to Black Templars. The way that they break this squad down for the Crusader Squad, you can bring 1 Sword Brother and 4 Initiates. You can bring a Sword Brother and 9 Initiates. You can bring 1 Sword Brother, 4 Initiates, and 5 Neophytes, or 1 Sword Brother, 9 Initiates, and 10 Neophytes.
This is why Space Marine stats are so daunting to read.
That's the only version that went up in points, is if you bring as many of the little bastards as you can fit.
And it happened for the Primaris Crusade Squad as well.
Great.
And the reason it happened?
A Crusader Squad went up for both point values.
The reason it happened was for the last 2 weeks, or last week, one of the top table winners has been what's called the Black Tide.
Oh, God.
You just field an army full of those guys.
Of course.
And they have, because they're Black Templar, they have the ability to get invols on things that shouldn't have invols. They have charge in advance. Like, it's just...
So it's 2,000 points of plot armor. Great.
Yeah, it's like the change sucks because it was literally just one guy who did really, really well in the tournament, and they seem to have brought the hammer down on everybody.
I mean,
and also for the 4th data slate in a row, Black Templar catching it on the chin despite not winning very much.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I feel like running the Deus Ex Machina detachment is going to get Ultramarines players suing for copyright infringement. But
I have a lot of people I know that play Black Templar. They're like, "Come on, guys! Like, it's just one thing after another. We're not even looking for buffs. Just leave us the hell alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking for the good touches. Stop the bad touches."
The
Yep.
black sheep of the family.
I mean, the Marshal went down, but High Marshal Helbricht went up. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Grimaldus going, like, so their main characters, Grimaldus and Helbrick, went up, and
Mhm.
their chunky units went up. So
The whole damn thing.
it's
Blood Angels, Ball Predator went up. Blood Angels Captain went up. Death Company Captain went down. Death Company Captain with Jump Pack went down. Death Company Dreadnought went down. Death Company with Marines went down at both squad sizes. Death Company Marines with Jump Packs went up at both squad sizes. Limartes, I never know how to say that name. He went up.
Martis.
Sanguinary Guard went down at both sizes. Liberator Assault Group saw one of their enhancements go up and one go down. Angelic Host saw one enhancement go down and 3 of them go up. So again, sort of a scattered smattering of nerfs and buffs.
Their first Codex data slate, I expect that.
Yeah, no, that's to be expected. Chaos Demons saw only 3 changes. Beasts of Nurgle went down at both unit sizes. Galaxy Hellbane went down, and the Renmaster on Blood Throne went up, which really just feels like twisting the knife for World Eaters players. But
yeah, you take it or leave it.
It is what it is.
We get no benefit from running Corn Demons right now, so nobody does.
No, I realize that, but it's like, were you considering it? How about instead you go screw yourself?
Oh, very much so. I just
my boys, Chaos Knights, we saw decreases only. The Knight Abominant is down to 365 points, which sounds like a lot until you remember that it's a Knights list, and that is an insanely low price point for a Knight. They really don't want to buff the Abominant. They want us to bring it anyways because it is the poster child for Chaos Knights right now. Yeah. And I mean, I will never take mine out of my list, but rather than giving me these like 20 point decreases that I can't do anything with, maybe just, make it more consistent. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
Knight Desecrator went down to 410 points. Still not worth bringing. Knight Despoiler went down to 450 points. I have no idea why it got decreased because it's the only Questoris Knight worth bringing at a competitive table right now. Knight Rampager stayed steady at 380 points. It is hysterical to me that the Abominant is now 15 points cheaper than the Rampager when the Rampager is wildly more effective. Knight Tyrant stayed at 510. The War Dog Brigand was reduced by 5 points. The Huntsman was reduced by, I think, 5 points, if I remember what their old cost was. The War Dog Stalker was reduced by 5 points, which means that in a competitive 2,000 point list, the way that most people are building them, your average player got back about 20 points.
Like a free enhancement almost.
Not even. Our enhancements are 25, 25, 30, and 40.
Gross.
Like, I don't know what they thought they were accomplishing with these changes, but this really just feels like throwing pennies at poor street children. Like, yeah,
seasoning water.
I'm sure it makes you feel good to hand these out, but it's not doing anybody any favors, right? Like,
chaos.
I shake my head. Chaos Space Marines, Abaddon went down in points. A Cursed Cultist went up for maximum size. Yeah, Abaddon is 280 points now.
No.
We're gonna get Abaddon walks the dogs back, baby. Let's go.
We're gonna put respect on the name. Man kicks my ass. You better fucking say his name right.
A Cursed Cultist saw their maximum unit size increase in points, whether MSU didn't. Chaos Predator Annihilator went down in points. Chaos Terminators went down in points. The Dark Commune went up in points. Havocs went down in points. Hallelujah. Legionaries went up for max unit size. Their max is still cheaper than bringing 2 MSU. Or sorry, went down at max. I'm reading this backwards. Legionaries were reduced, so their max unit size is cheaper than 2 MSUs. Lord Discordant on Hellstalker went down. Obliterators went down. Possessed went down for both unit sizes. Raptors were reduced for max unit size. The same point breakdown as Legionaries now, where you can bring MSU for 90 points or a full 10 models for 170. So you save 10 points by bringing the max unit size.
What?
Sorcerer and Terminator armor went down. Vashtor the Archifane went down. Warp Talons went down for their minimum unit and not their max unit size.
Hmm.
Dark
Vashtor?
Angels saw Azrael go up. Deathwing Knights went up. Landspeeder Vengeance went down. Lionel Johnson went down. Ravenwing Command Squad went down. Samael went down.
Ooh.
You experimented with Dark Angels.
Yes,
Coda.
it did.
Did Deathwing Knights need to go up? Because I feel like they did, but I've only ever been on the wrong side of the table from.
I don't know. They are a very, very good hammer. It's like, what are they now?
250
For a 5?
Yeah. Which I think makes them still the rating champion for the most expensive TEQ.
Yes. But they're TEQ with -1 damage incoming. Incoming. They have devastating hits on the Huntmaster, whatever their version of the Huntmaster is.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know. Did they need the increase? Probably. Is it too much of an increase? Maybe. But you'll still see them because they're worth it.
So, as a follow-up question, the page after this is Death Guard. So, Deathwing Knights, we saw the 5-man squad go up to 250. Death Guard, on the other hand, we see Death Shroud Terminators, the 6 model unit went down to 220. And honestly, if you asked me pound for pound what is the closest chaos equivalent to Deathwing Knights, I would tell you it's Death Shroud.
You would be correct, and I still think that they lose.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but the fact that you're paying 30 points less for an extra model.
Yeah, I don't know. That -1 incoming damage plus armor contempt plus the other stratagems that they have access to.
True. This
Like
is the man who at the top of the podcast said that forgetting armor contempt didn't matter for Terminators. And just, we have the receipts.
Yeah, you have the receipts, and I said, "Is it going to change your game massively?" No, and I don't think it will. That being said, if you're playing at top tables, which this is what we're balanced towards,
right? Yeah, that's entirely fair.
Yeah,
and this is something that I think also needs to be said. These balance changes are not for your local FLGS enjoyment times.
Which is exactly the problem that we're having with the Black Templars changing, right? Like they're balancing around one dude at the top tables and screwing over all the casual game. And
I don't know what the solution to that is because I refuse to think that a 2-rule system is better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I don't know that there is a better system that works practically. A more holistic rules overview, like better win-loss tracking sort of across the board would be better, but I don't know how you pull it off. Anyway, so Death Guard, Death Shroud Terminators went down at both unit sizes. Biologist Putrefier went down. Mortarion went down, and that is it for them. Drukhari saw almost universal increases. Archon went up. Beastmaster went up. Court of the Archon went up. Drazar, who's a character I think, went up. Hellions went down. Incubi went up. Lilith Hesprax went down or went up. Mandrake's minimum unit size went up. Reaver's minimum unit size went up. I really, as we're going through this, I really am seeing this sort of consistent trend where they're making minimum size units attacks almost. But then, like, we run into Gene Stealer cults and aberrants. They reduce the price on the minimum unit size so that it's less than half. Like, you pay more to bring them into max unit size.
Oh, strange philosophy.
Yeah. Paladin Squad for Grey Knights. 5 models is 215 now, and 10 is 450.
God, 215. I never knew.
Brotherhood Terminator Squad, 5 models is 200 points, 10 is 420. So you pay a tax to bring max units. Like, I want to see the list of where they got sort of the idea of what needs to be changed.
Because
The
internal metrics.
Like, we're definitely seeing changes that don't, there's not a consistency. It's not like they're targeting minimum unit size or minimum size units sort of across the board. There's some where we're seeing minimum size units be discouraged from a point standpoint, and others where we're seeing them be encouraged, like with the Grey Knights.
I think largely probably because of how those armies are playing right now. I
I
know from a Grey
suppose.
Knight perspective, bricks of Terminators is the way to run. Bricks of Paladins is the way to run. If it suddenly becomes more point value to run a 5-man instead of a brick, that changes the play, especially for Grey Knights, because you can upsy downy units.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, for non-competitive people, upsy downy is at the end of your opponent's turn. You get to remove your models from the board and bring them back down in your deep strike.
Yeah.
Is the competitive term for that upsy downy?
It is now.
Yes.
What's
No,
the
like legitimately, that's what it is.
Yeah.
what's the casual term for that then?
Whoops, there they go. Um,
I just want to hear a commentator go, "Oh, he's doing the upsy downy, amazing move! Oh my gosh, never seen before."
clearly this means that you and I have to get into doing commentary on tournaments, Mark.
Gotta use the accent.
Yes, absolutely. I need you to make it a lot worse though. It needs to be like the worst accent you've ever done.
Yeah, I'll work on it.
As I'm scrolling here, Imperial Knights, Canis Rex went up. It's about damn time. The Knight Castellan and the Knight Valiant have been reduced to 510, which now brings them in line with their Chaos counterpart. Knight Errant and Knight Gallant have both been reduced to 390 and 380 respectively, so maybe we'll see some variance in Imperial Knight lists. I doubt it. More likely they're just going to ditch whatever enhancements they were using to keep Canis. But that's a thing. Leagues of Votann saw Hearthguard minimum size unit reduced in price. The Jaegers went up in price to 90, which is, I think, a 20-point jump, which is it only 10? Can't remember if they were 80 or 9 or 70 before. Either way, definitely a thing that needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Necrons. Necrons got kind of feels like the dartboard throw again here. Annihilation Barge went down.
Yes, finally.
Catacomb
A reason
Command
to
Barge
bring.
went down. Death Marks went up.
Yep.
Doomsday Arc went down.
Mm-hmm.
Locust Destroyers went up, but only if you're bringing them in singles, which is now the only version of them where you pay a tax.
Yes, it's always been the big issue. They're the cheapest model with decent shooting. 30 points from one of them. Hold your home objective.
But now they're
That's
35.
The only
like,
reason. That's the only reason you brought them.
It's so funny.
Just bring I bring 3 individual units.
Locust Heavy Destroyers went up at all 3 price points. Monolith went up to 400 points. The Obelisk went down to 300 points. I don't know what the Obelisk is.
The Obelisk is the closed version of the Catan Tesseract Vault.
Oh, right.
It's the anti-fly.
That. Yeah.
It's the anti-fly one.
Yeah, so Obelisk went down to 300 points. The Tesseract Vault went up to 425. So I sure hope all you Necron players that really like that model are aggressively magnetizing. So
no, definitely not. I don't
Triarch
think
Praetorians went down at both price points. Triarch Stalker went down. My favorite Necron model. Would love to see that one get played more often.
Yes,
Codex Orcs. I see a lot of green, which is probably going to make a lot of Orcs players jump for joy because did they take it to the knees last time.
I need to share the Necron chance. There's more than just the points.
What else got changed?
Since the Codex for Necrons came out, there has been a glaring issue that is a mainstay on the subreddit Necron tier that has been fixed in this point update. And is now that the Silent King unit now has the Triarch keyword.
He's
so he now benefits
worth bringing.
He benefits from the detachment that he is based around. He now gets the full benefits, which is fantastic. Also, the Catacomb Command Barge now has the what's it called? The Overlord keyword, so he can also benefit from the detachment.
Wow.
So hopefully this brings up also with the point reductions for Triarch Stalkers and Praetorians. Hopefully it brings a Basin's Phalanx more into like, let's see what he can do.
Because that's the Triarch detachment, right? Like that's its whole thing is
correct. You get like you basically get Oath of Moment, but it's +1 to wound rather than anything else for your Triarch, Triarch, Overlord, and Praetorian models. Which is great. And now also the big thing now is the stratagem in the thing that you target to a Triarch model to give it extra OC that gives like more for vehicles. If you target the Silent King with it, now that it works, it makes this OC 9.
That's pretty good.
If you have both your Mayhears still alive, makes each of the models OC3 because he's considered a vehicle, which is crazy. Great, can't wait. Also, people kind of forgot that Silent King couldn't fly, and people are like, did they remove it? Like, no, he could never fly.
He's just never had it.
No, so
No,
exciting stuff.
we all know that man swagger walks everywhere he goes.
His giant fucking throne.
You're right.
So,
Cool.
very exciting.
I mean,
Yeah,
exciting things in the Dusty Old Bones fandom.
The best fandom.
Orcs Codex, like I said, green pretty much across the board, which I'm sure has more than a few boys throwing their teeth in the air in joy. Beast Naga boys went down at both points tiers. Big Mech went down. Big Mech in Mega Armor. Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun. Boys went down at both point cost tiers. Def Dread went down. Def Coptas went down. The Gorkanaut went down, which I'm sure is just life changing for someone. Hunter Rig went down. Kill Rig went down. Commandos went down. Mega Knobs went down at all 4 price points, which is exciting because oh boy, they're bad right now. Morkanaut went down. Tank Bustas went down. Just like greens across the board. It's very exciting.
Wow.
So
Holy
maybe we'll see Orcs claw their way back from what a 27% win rate or whatever they're sitting at right now.
They can't be, right?
No, they're bad.
What?
It's bad. It's really bad.
I've had nightmares for years about orc armies. Are you kidding me?
Well, because like the thing is, Codex Orcs came out and they came out swinging. They were mean, and then they took like 4 nerf bats to the knees in one Munitorm update, and like they had their points increased, they had rules taken away, they had changes to how things work. Like it was aggressive, and they went from like a 59% win rate to like a 31 almost overnight.
Oh my god.
So that was a thing.
I'm sure the guy at my LGS that runs exclusively kit bashed orcs, that he made them all look like Easter eggs with arms.
That's awesome.
And he's also like, he's such a cool guy too. Like everyone loves him, and he always, like whenever he declares the war, he yells it. And everyone yells it with him, and it's always a great time. I'm sure he's feeling good now.
He'll get to bring some additional Easter eggs. So
I will show you the eggs. I'm sure I can find the image.
Yeah, you gotta send us a picture. Space Marines, by far the longest list in this document. Lots to talk about in here. So Apothecary Biologist went up in points, if you ask me, not by enough, but that's neither here nor there. Assault Intercessor, the jump packs, minimum size unit went up. You now pay a 20-point tax, bringing 2 MSUs over 1 10-man unit. Ballistus Dreadnought went down. Phobos Captain went down. Eradicator Squad went up at both price points. Heavy Intercessors went down at both price points. Invader ATV went down. Nobody's bringing the quad. Stop trying, Games Workshop. Invictor Tactical Warsuit, which is the dread that isn't for Phobos armies, went down. Outrider Squad had their points cost reduced to bring an Invader ATV.
Here we go.
Because you can slap an Invader ATV into there. They're still not bringing it. It's not happening. Good luck, G-Dub. Terminator squads went down at both price points. Reaver squad went down at both price points. Rowboat Girly Man went down. Which is not at all what I expected after the buff he got in the last one. Oh my god, those are the best orcs I've ever seen. Okay, if you're on YouTube, you're seeing this picture right now. If you're not on YouTube, you need to go find us on YouTube and check out this picture of these orcs, because that is phenomenal.
His entire army. I'm looking for I know he's got a Gorgon.
Are those Killicans? Is that what those are supposed to be?
I'll find the explanation.
Those Mega Knobs. Oh my god.
He's got a Titanic one in here somewhere.
That is the best thing I've ever seen. All 3 flavors of Storm Speeder went down in price. Suppressor Squad went down in price. You can't even buy the Suppressor Squad, so I don't know why they're changing points on that. Okay, Terminator Assault Squad went down. Vanguard Veterans with jump packs went up. The Fire Discipline Enhancement in Gladius Task Force went up. Stormlands Task Force saw Fainting Withdrawal go down and Hunter's Instincts go up. Both of those are enhancements. Space Wolves, Bjorn the Fell-Handed went up in price. Hounds of Mordkai went down. Grimnar went up. Longfangs went down. Skyclaws went down, but only at 10 and 15 models. Thunderwolf Cavalry went up at both price points. Wolfguard went down at both price points. Tau Empire, Farsight went down in price. Kroot Carnivores went down in price. Kroot Flesh Shaper went down in price. Kroot Trail Shaper went down in price. Kroot War Shaper went down in price. Krootox Rampagers went down. Krootox Riders, I think similar to the Locust Destroyers, the single model went up in points. The 2 and 3 model price points went down. Piranhas, which are their jet bike equivalent, went up at all 3 price points. The Riptide went up for reasons unknown to me. It's not good right now. I'm sure there's at least one competitive player that disagrees with me vehemently, and feel free to jump in the comments and explain why I'm stupid, but
Get in the comments.
oh my, it's the Eggonaut. It's amazing.
He put so much work
I
into
adore it. That's so good.
it.
I'm happy for that guy specifically for these art exchanges.
Oh, yeah.
Thousand Suns took it across the knee.
Yeah.
Good.
This is
Yeah.
wild. Ahriman went up. Ahriman on disc went up. Exalted Sorcerer went up. Exalted Sorcerer on disc went up. Infernal Master went up. Magnus went up. Mutilith Vortex Beast went up. Make it make sense. Rubric Marines went up for 5 and down for 10. Forge Fiend went up. Sorcerer went up. Zangor went up for 3 models for the Enlightened specifically. That's a lot of red. And I agree with Coda on this one. Good. It's about time. They were kind of sleeper strong, and I don't think getting rid of indirect, the indirect ability on warp fire weapons was the, magic bullet that GW thought it was going to be.
Yep.
Tyranid saw points reductions to Carnifexes, Von Ryan's Leapers, and the Winged Hive Tyrant. They saw points increases to the Lictor, Old One Eye, and single model Pyrovores. I think, again, sort of targeting that same play style as what we were talking about with the Locusts, where you just bring one to hold the home objective. World Eaters, Angron went up in points. Chaos Spawn went up in points. Demon Prince with Wings went down in points. And the Master of Executions went up in points.
Frustrating.
Now, okay, real quick, I'm gonna pass the mic to Cody here to rant about this a little bit, but that Master of Executions increase in particular, in combination with the Blood Surge change, has a knock-on effect to really put a chilling sort of effect on bringing Berserkers to any sort of competitive table.
I believe so. Like I said, without the increase to Master of Execution, you're already looking at it being the same point cost to bring 6 Exalted 8-Bound. Now they might actually be cheaper.
So, okay, for the layman out there, though, the Master of Executions is mandatory with Berserkers
because it lets you fight first, which means that when you surge into a unit because you didn't charge, you don't get to fight first. But with the Master of Executions, you do. So you survive because generally you hit first, and I would put my money on any Berserker over any Berserker equivalent.
Yeah.
Right.
It allowed you to, as I've said this a lot this week, hit above your weight class.
So just for context then, so a 10-man squad of Berserkers is 180 points, which is more than most MEQ units.
It's on par with the...
So looking at an Assault Intercessor squad, a unit of 10 is 150 points.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
That's the thing. Assault Intercessor with jump packs is 160. So for a battle line unit with the Surge ability prior to, because the Surge gave them just ridiculous amounts of mobility, that extra 20 points made a lot of sense.
Right.
Because they pushed across the board very quickly, and if you played them aggressively and Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows, they could get into a fight. But you had to pay how much was the MOE previously, Master of Executions? He was 90?
No, he was 100 points.
He was
I don't
100?
know what he is now.
He's 110 now. So previously, that unit pretty much guaranteed was always 280 points because you had to bring 10 of them in order to have enough to actually sacrifice the models to trigger Blood Surge enough that you were still dangerous when you got into combat. And
And
then,
to make sure you got to where they were going, you needed a rhino.
right, so you're also paying a tax of
I think it
75
was
points for a rhino.
yeah.
Ooh,
So 180 points of berserkers to make them viable on the tabletop, you're paying almost double.
yeah.
Like it's instead it'd be 355 points for a rhino plus master of executions. Now,
And for 360, you get the hardest non-Primarch hitting unit in the army.
Yeah.
which is the
Bow.
Exalted 8 band.
Yes.
Why are they 360? Because I see 310.
I think they might be okay. Then I'm off, so they're cheaper to begin with.
Yeah.
The difference being you are shy 7 moons, you are shy 4 bodies, technically 5 because the character. And it's they don't have the icon of corn, which lets you reroll one of your dice if you're on an objective.
You know, you don't get a sick ride.
But they get the deep strike. They get a invul of 5 up. They have a 6 up, feel no pain. They have an ability that if you want to fall back from them, you have to take a leadership test, and if you fail, no, you're staying there.
Yep.
Just
Like
sort of
it's
generally better.
yeah, and you would bring the berserkers as sort of a costly but useful mulching unit.
Yeah, because your opponent either focuses down the berserkers or it lets the berserkers chew the front line, because with the master of executions in particular, they're very scary.
Yes. And now that is just not the case.
Yeah, now
Or
that you're
less
looking at
less likely
paying
to be the case.
now that you're looking at paying 365 points for a less effective version of the unit, it's really
Yeah.
unlikely that we see more than one squad of berserkers in
You
any
might
competitive World Eaters
you might
list.
still see one because Karn will make up for that.
Oh yeah, Karn compensates, and Karn didn't go up in points, which is nice.
So he might still be like you'll see Karn, Berserker, and Rhino together.
But you won't see
'Cause-
multiple like you used to.
No. And the reason why you see Karn, Berserker, and Rhino together is because while Karn is in the Rhino, he's not slaughtering his buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
Karn can get in the rhino?
Yeah, Karn can get in the Rhino, and he has the ability called the Betrayer. And if you end a charge phase not in engagement range of an enemy, you sacrifice one of the bodyguard models.
Oh, I like that. That's cool.
It's a whole thing. I mean, it's fun to watch. It's part of the reason I don't.
But and it's hilarious because I say that, and he's still worth bringing.
Yeah,
Like you could possibly have him kill his entire bodyguard squad, and he'd still be worth bringing because Gorechild is a strength 9 on the charge, like 8 attacks, and his pistol is a supercharged, non-hazardous plasma pistol.
yeah. I mean, it probably is still hazardous. It's just Karn doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So balancing changes, not a lot of W's across the board, I don't think.
I'm gonna have to see what the competitive scene shakes out after this to see if it was needed.
Well, we will look forward to your analysis on our next podcast, assuming we don't take up all of our time with all of our spooky stuff for Halloween.
Spook.
All that being said, though, and you know, opinions and stuff, I do have a big W to share, and I don't know if you guys saw this. We got some news 3 days ago that a new Kill Team starter set is on the way.
Yes.
Space Marines versus Plague Marines, which is great on its own. But the thing that I don't know a lot of people necessarily appreciate is that the models in this set are from a series that was only ever released in Japan and sort of Asia areas called Space Marine Heroes. Hilariously, the Death Guard Reddit, there was a post on the 14th from a guy who the day before this was announced spent $300 to acquire all the out of print Death Guard models
No.
And then they announced that like this Kill Team starter set is coming out that's got the entire Space Marine Heroes line for both the Space Marines and the Death Guard. Interestingly, the Space Marine Heroes were sort of soft available in North America, with the exception of one model on both sides, which never made it across the pond. So GW finally heard you, Space Marine collector fans and Death Guard collector fans. I will say I when I had my Death Guard, I paid money for a couple of these models because the Heroes series models they were so good.
Oh, the
They
plate
look
caster is
cool.
just amazing.
Well, and particularly the base Plague Caster might be the worst single model in the entire Death Guard. And like this guy is just he's miles better. So very, very exciting. The poses are very dynamic on both of them, which I very much like. The Space Marine Kill Team is a little bit disjointed, for lack of a better term, because you've got a captain. I think you've got what 1, 2, 3, 4 intercessors, one of which has a chainsword. You've got an intercessor with a heavy bolt gun, and then you've got a Phobos Eliminator, which for Kill Team, sure, but like.
So one of the things is for Kill Team that makes perfect sense, and I think that's ideally what obviously what they're doing. Second one, put Deathwatch shoulder pads on them. Always makes sense.
Turn them into a Kill Team.
Yep.
You see what they did there.
But no, I think it's good that they're doing that. It gives me hope for future stuff that is out of print that might come back in this way.
I would like them not to do region locked releases like that. Like I think that was kind of an L in the first place. And seeing them fixing it, even though it's like 2-3 years later, it's nice to see. It's nice to see them acknowledge that, I think.
Yes, I agree.
Here we go. Where can I find the rules commentary FAQ?
It's in the download section on the website.
I'm trying to find the download section on the website.
Go to Warhammer Community. It's a big yellow button in the top right.
Warhammer Community. Downloads. Okay, here we go. I wanted to check something.
Oh boy.
About Imperial agents.
Because something that would be in their index, or
well, when the codex came out, there was a glaring issue with one of the interactions that when they did the errata FAQ for it, they didn't change. I'm trying to see if they ended up changing it this time. Visitor of Waitman Arms. No,
they changed
thank God,
Emulator and the Imperial Rhino.
They fixed it. They fixed the Rhino.
Oh, did they?
The Rhino used
infantry.
to say, yeah, the Rhino used to say it had a transport capacity of 12 agents of the Imperium models.
Right.
Now it says agents of the Imperium infantry models.
So you used to be able to inside the
you used to be able to until this errata. So for a couple of weeks, this codex has been out. You could have clown card your rhinos.
I mean, to be fair, this is the same company that when they released Leagues of Votann in 9th edition, they released them with the ability for a single vehicle to output 33 mortal wounds in a turn.
Oh,
for one
that wasn't
CP.
even the worst. That wasn't even the worst thing about them. You're talking about a company that when they released the Nundum models, they took 0 damage from damage 1 weapons because they reduced all damage by 1.
Yeah, the battle.
Oh, that's right. I forgot the Paragons were.
So literally for like 2 weeks, the Paragons walked around smacking the hell out of guards because what the hell do guardsmen do?
Yeah, D1 damage.
Yeah, all of the Knights players are in the corner just sulking. Like, oh, why did they get it?
Yeah, I'm glad this was fixed. This has been my radar, funnily enough.
Yeah, no, it's very, very nice. Yeah, as far as topics go, I think that's about all I've got. I don't know if anything you guys want to talk about.
And rules updates was the kind of big one. New If you want to touch on the new update for Space Marine 2, we can.
I haven't had a chance to get in and play it.
All right.
I will say that some of the feedback that I'm seeing on Reddit and my own sort of personal feelings about what they did with the patch notes, they are running the risk of sliding down the same hill that Helldivers did, where they're trying too hard to make the game hard instead of fun. Mostly like they reduced how much damage ranged enemies did, and then they were like, no, the game feels too easy now, and so they've made you just sort of universally take more damage, which I don't love. However, I really want to go see a higher font Biotitan, so
yes, also true. Sorry, yeah, you cut out for me terribly there. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, did I?
I hear you. I heard like a big old gap, and you're saying like, which I don't love. It's like, what?
Yeah, you cut out for me too.
Weird. Well, I hope it's not on the recording, and just in case it is, I will restate that the thing that I don't love about this patch is that they're falling into the same trap that Helldivers did, where they're way too hung up on how hard the game is and not how fun it is.
Yeah.
Where they've made a change that, you know, originally they had walked back how much damage ranged enemies did, and they had reduced how many ranged enemies were on the field at once, which was great. But then in this patch, they said, you know, we feel like it's made the game too easy, and so now you just sort of universally take anywhere from 10 to 20% more damage.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on Reddit are saying that this change has just made the game like wildly punishing and unfun, particularly with the new lethal difficulty.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well.
So
I haven't tried it out yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get into it. We're also in the middle of like Next Fest, and I've been playing a lot of demos for other games. So, I mean, Space Marine will be there after Next Fest. The demos won't.
Yeah. I think I'll miss, because I'm a bit of a whore, you know, for tactical Marines. They nerfed Aspect Scan for boss damage by like 30%.
Oh, yeah, and they nerfed Meltas like across the board, didn't they?
Yeah, Melta bombs do 70% less damage to bosses now.
I just like, I don't know. The game doesn't need to be that hard. Is my general opinion. Like the fact that Helldivers made their game harder and harder and harder and harder, and then they had to go on like a 60-day redemption tour saying, we're so sorry, here's all of the buffs you've ever asked for.
Yeah.
I feel like these devs maybe should have paid more attention.
I wonder how much wiggle room they have to make like course corrections, you know?
Well, so I don't know. I've never developed a game. I don't know the first thing about it. I'll state that right off the bat. I feel like there has to be something we're missing, because a lot of companies do the same mistake. And you'd assume that the companies would learn from each other.
Right. Makes sense to me, but
it seems to be a trend with misinterpreting the types of data that they get. So like, for example, and this was the exact same problem that Helldivers had, and they didn't listen to the gamers on, which they have come out and said like that was a mistake and we should have done that from the start. Is if they get data that says nobody's using bolt guns like across the board, right? Nobody will use the bolt weapons on the tactical Marine. Nobody will use the bolt weapons on the sniper. Nobody will use the heavy bolter on the heavy class. They're all using the melta gun. You can look at that one of two ways. You can say, well, clearly everybody's using the meltas because meltas are really strong and they're making it easy, so we should nerf the meltas. Or you can look at that from the standpoint of, well, everybody's using the meltas because it's the only thing that works because the bolters aren't good enough.
Except that so the little bit of Space Marine 2 that I played, I felt like the meltas did what meltas are supposed to do. The bolters did what bolters are supposed to do. So the problem for me wasn't ever the stat line. The problem for me was you've pigeonholed the gameplay so that meltas are the better choice because I'm more going up against extremist threats.
Well, but it's not even that. See, the thing is, meltas aren't better at hard targets, which they should be. because the Melta is a shotgun that deals equal damage across the entire cone, Meltas are just more efficient for everything.
Yeah, crowd
And bolt
clear.
weapons didn't have an upside that Meltas didn't cover more effectively. Like, generally, the advantage of a bolt weapon over Melta is range. The issue is nothing wanted to fight you at a range where that mattered.
Well, this is what I mean, is that your gameplay has pigeonholed your weapon choice.
Right.
So like for me, the big thing would then be, okay, what is when you're getting the data that nobody's using bolt guns, but everybody's using meltas. Why does it have to be we fix either of those guns? Why isn't it okay? Suddenly we're going to spawn more termagants instead of hormagants.
So the issue is that that's how it worked originally, and it sucked because ranged enemies do a wild amount of damage.
They're so hurtful.
And we don't have the tools to avoid range damage for the most part.
Yeah.
The other problem, though, and this is where I think maybe their misunderstanding came from, is that Meltas were also better against Thousand Suns that wanted to fight at range because the bolt weapons were a bunch of limp noodles. Like, the only bolt weapon that was even halfway worth using was the heavy bolter, and that was because you could bring a version of the heavy bolter that had like 800 rounds of ammo, and you could just empty the chamber into everything you fought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Heavy Marines get the shield thing in operation?
Yeah, they also get the Iron Halo.
How come I never see that?
Because nobody plays heavy, because without a melee weapon, it's actually one of the harder classes to survive on higher difficulty.
Damn it. Yeah, makes sense.
Like, their parry window is essentially non-existent, and when you get that one really super friggin' bullshit spawn that's like 7 melee Tyranid warriors with the bone swords and the whips, like, as a heavy, I just turned and ran. Like,
bye.
I'm like, I'm gonna go hide behind my friends. I'm gonna let you guys take aggro, and then I will start shooting.
Yeah. It's funny.
But
that's another system I think that a lot of games screw up. Aggro tables.
Yeah, I wonder, like, because it seems to me like, oh, Bulwark's got to be the aggro tank. Like, do they have any ability to take aggro?
They do, but it's tied to their manner.
Yeah, that's not great.
Which is not nearly a long enough cooldown.
Yeah.
Or a short enough cooldown, I should say, for that.
So it just, like, to me, any team-based game needs to have an ability. If you're going to have a tank class like the Bulwark, because let's face it, that's what he is.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a tank class like the Bulwark, you need to. The first thing that they should always have the ability to do is make people fight them.
Mm-hmm.
So I really strongly agree with you on all points, except that the Bulwark is the only tank class. The Vanguard is absolutely a duelist tank.
Yeah, just as many iframes as you can generate, right?
Well, so interestingly, though, that has, on paper at least, been nerfed. The way that it worked originally, because there's 3 different defensive stats for weapons. You've got fencing, balanced, and block defensives. Block weapons have a 0 frame parry window. They can't parry at all. They can only block, per the name. Balanced weapons, through the 30 frame parry animation, parry frames 11 to 20. Originally, fencing weapons parried frames 1 to 30. That was then found to be a bug. So then they changed it so that it parries frames 1 to 20. Now they've changed it so that fencing weapons will parry on frames 1 through 10 and balanced will parry on 11 through 20.
Yeah.
So
if you see blue light and hit button like monkey, fencing is best.
The fencing is still best because there are a number of attacks that actually come through too fast for balanced weapons to parry with that 10 frame window change. There's been a number of people online that have said that, like, the change either feels like it was a red herring or like it didn't work because fencing weapons still feel really good. The big thing, though, that I think a lot of people are overlooking is that the Vanguard has a talent that increases the parry window for all weapons. And so I'm pretty sure Vanguard still gets parry on frames 1 through 20 on fencing weapons. And then I think their balanced weapons, they can parry 11 through 30.
Ooh.
So Vanguard is very much, like I said, it's a duelist tank. You get into the mess with your grappling hook. and you just parry constantly.
Poor assault.
The assault is just screwed. Like,
Yeah, they got gun strikes, and that's kind of it. And they even have no iframes.
well, and in particular, they're apparently one of the big things with the new lethal difficulty is that it comes with mission modifiers. And one of the modifiers makes it so that if you're too far away from your squad mates, you don't get armor back from gun strikes and executions.
Absolutely.
And it's not like you have to be within range of one of your squad mates. It is both. And so a guy was saying he was playing Assault and he's on a team with a sniper and he didn't get a single armor pip from an execution the entire game because the sniper wants to fight far away and he's like up getting finishers on things the sniper is shooting. And he's like, I'm just watching my health hemorrhage the whole time because I'm not getting anything back.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
some balancing concerns in this update. I may wait to check it out until I see a patch go through, but that's kind of where we're at with that. So
a solemn day at the Blackstone Fortress.
yeah. On that note, though, I'm definitely losing my voice and I need to go get a drink. So I think we're gonna call there.
Yes. What can we look forward to next time, Snowy?
More people. There will be more of us. We're gonna try and plan to do a Halloween episode. We're gonna talk about all things spooky and grimdark and the grimdark spooky.
Yes.
And we'll kind of take it from there. So definitely tune in for that. If you're watching this on YouTube, jump into the comments and tell us how you keep track of all the things that you need for your army. Whether you do a cheat sheet or if you're, a studying nerd or I don't know, you got a Neuralink chip implanted and it reads stratagems to you or something. I don't know. But get in the comments and let us know. If you're on Spotify, you can't leave comments. I'm sorry. So maybe go find us on YouTube and tell us. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing all you guys in 2 weeks. Take good care of yourselves and stay weird. Love you lots. Bye.
Like.